Good morning. Rarely does a race for city clerk garner state and to some degree national attention, but this year's contest in Detroit is one of the most interesting that everyone is talking about. Three-term incumbent Janice M. Winfrey is engaged in a strong challenge from Garland D. Gilchrist II, a former social media manager with the Obama campaign, now making his very first run for elective office. Today, they square off together on our Sunday morning program. It's Sunday, October the 29th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. And welcome to Spotlight as we focus in on the Detroit City Clerk race that you'll have to vote on in, well, just about 2 weeks here or so. And welcome to our guest, Janice Winfrey. She's the incumbent, and Garland Gilchrist, and he is the challenger. Welcome to Spotlight to both of you.
Thank you.
I know it's been a long campaign, and you're almost to the end of it. That's the good news.
Almost to the end of it.
Let me start with you, Ms. Winfrey. How is it after 3 terms in office you find yourself in what some are saying the race of your career?
Well, you know, I think the race of my career was my first race.
Okay.
But, you know, I've never run unchallenged. I've always had at least 5 challengers for this position. So it's par for the course.
All right. Garland Gilchrist, you've never been elected to public office before. Some would say, okay, you're a political rookie. Why should the voters take a chance on, quote unquote, a political rookie for such an important job?
Well, Chuck, first of all, I want to thank Detroit voters for supporting me in the primary and giving me a chance for this opportunity to serve them as their Detroit City Clerk. And I thank them for voting for me then, and I ask they vote for me again on November 7th. And for the last 12 years, I've been preparing to serve Detroiters as their next city clerk. You know, my experience after college, graduating from the University of Michigan with degrees in computer engineering and computer science, taught me how to be a problem solver and how to fix systems. And we need that kind of problem solving in the city clerk's office. Working for Microsoft, working for President Obama, working for MoveOn.org, and most importantly, serving the city of Detroit as the Director of Innovation and Technology taught me how to solve problems and fix systems and work with people and mobilize them and inform and engage them. That's exactly what the Detroit City Clerk must do in order to fully serve Detroiters. And I've been preparing for that for the last 12 years, and I'm prepared to serve them now as their next city clerk.
All right. City Clerk Winfrey, 2016. That election, many people say it was just a fiasco. So many different types of problems, recounts. When all was said and done, and it was evaluated by the Secretary of State's office, they said that there was no appearance of fraud, but that there was incompetence. What happened, and how do those type of things happen when you've had the type of tenure that you've had?
Well, you know, 2016 was problematic for the entire state, not just the city of Detroit. You know, focus is always on us. We're the largest municipality, but it's problematic for the entire state. And what the state said was that there was poor performance at the precincts. So that let us know that we have to train better and train differently our poll workers. We knew going into the election, all of us, all of the clerks in the state of Michigan, we knew going into the elections we had 10-year-old voting devices that we had to use for that elections. We knew going into that election that if we ever had to have a recount, it would be problematic for the state because we have very old election laws that don't allow for human error. And that's what happened in November 2016. But we fixed 2016. In the primary of 2017, 85% of our precincts were deemed perfect precincts. We have implemented our new voting devices. They worked well. Our poll workers were trained differently, more enhanced training. Our supervisor poll workers now train quarterly throughout the year. Our inspectors train hands-on, so they have election day right there simulated in our training. So we fixed 2016 and we're moving forward. We know we had our results in by 10:30 in the primary 2017. We know our poll workers did what they were supposed to do, and we know we realized 85% perfect precincts.
Garland Gilchrist, human beings aren't perfect. They make mistakes. Has too much been made of what happened in 2016? And as Ms. Winfrey has just said, have those problems been fixed?
Chuck, voting is too important for us to look past the disaster of 2016. When an election fails Detroiters, it erodes their trust in the voting process. I'm running for Detroit City Clerk to restore that trust. And unfortunately, the fact that less and less voters are voting in elections in Detroit, in our election in August 2017, which my opponent deems a success, I care about the 15% of precincts that were not perfect. I don't call successful an election where less than 14% of voters cast ballots. They have lost trust and faith in the voting process. And we can't blame them because they just were traumatized by what happened in 2016. I mean, they had situations where we couldn't do a recount, not because of state law, but because the fact that in 59% of precincts in Detroit, the number of voters in the poll book didn't match the number of voters in the voting machine. They lost trust because that system didn't work, and that's why we couldn't recount. They've lost trust because we had situations where there were 95 poll books that didn't show up for weeks. They were missing. This is why voters have believed that their vote hasn't counted under the leadership of the current city clerks. You know, one of the ideas that I've been talking about since the beginning of this campaign is sending absentee voters who for years have lost trust and confidence in the process confirmation receipts in the mail so they'll know that the city has received their ballot and they can give them some idea of what will happen to their ballot after they cast it. My opponent has attempted to implement this idea for the first time in the general election, but is not doing a good job of doing so. Voters have approached me and shown me multiple confirmation receipts that one voter has gotten, but she got 2 confirmation receipts. She's confused. She believes that is her vote recorded twice? Is it counted twice? This is the kind of chaos and confusion that causes people to lose trust in the process, and I am running for city clerk to restore that trust.
All right, certainly a lot there that I'm sure Ms. Winfrey wants to react to. Let me go to a break. We'll come back and I'll give you a chance to respond.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Stay with us. Candidates for Detroit City Clerk, Janice Winfrey and Garland Gilchrist. Mr. Gilchrist said a lot here that I want to give you a chance to react to.
Thank you, Chuck. So, you know, mistakes happen. People make mistakes. There's no perfect person. There's no perfect system. I don't believe voters are discouraged by mistakes. GM, Ford, and Chrysler have recalls on the regular because of mistakes. Foods are recalled on the regular because of mistakes. People certainly aren't discouraged from eating. But what my opponent does is he consistently says things that aren't really accurate. First and foremost, why would a voter go to anyone other than the city clerk or the Department of Elections if they have questions regarding their balloting issue? He says that our absentee ballot is the voters are confused and so they aren't participating. Well, that's not true. That's our largest block of voters, the absentee voter, typically our senior citizens. Our people aren't losing faith in the election process. Do you want to know why they don't vote? They don't vote because they lose confidence in the elected officials. We know that when there is illegal activity by our elected officials, when our elected officials are hauled off to jail, when our elected officials are involved in illegal activity, the next scheduled election will automatically show a reduction in turnout. That's what people lose trust in.
Have you failed in the training of your workers?
We haven't failed, but certainly there's been room for improvement, and that's what we've done. You know, Chuck, I am an educator. Teaching is what I do. Dealing with the public as a public administrator is what I do. So we look at what works and we look at what don't work and we make those changes, just like in our school systems. When curriculums work, we use them, we enhance them, but we review them yearly to ensure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so, yes, we go in and we tweak them. Yes, we try different things and different methods of teaching. But one thing we know, we have to teach to the whole person.
Mr. Gilchrist, if the voters elect you to this position, what will you do differently with training?
So I want to answer that, and I also want to respond to the fact that the reason that voters haven't gone to the city clerk with that confusion is because, like she said, they've lost faith in their elected leaders. These are the 2 confirmation receipts that one of the voters brought to me when they received multiple confirmations after sitting on their absentee ballot. They're not going to their elected leader because she's right. They don't trust her with this office, and I will restore trust. Part of that trust means respecting and not laying blame at someone else's feet when problems go wrong. See, leadership is about accountability and taking responsibility for actions. My opponent has been in office for 12 years, and the only reason that we are now getting more training is because the Secretary of State, after the audit, mandated there was more quarterly training. I will be a leader who does not require the Secretary of State to tell me what needs to happen to serve our poll workers better and to serve our voters better. So yes, one of the biggest changes I want to implement is making sure that not only the training is available more regularly, not only does it meet different people's learning styles, everyone doesn't learn the same way, everyone doesn't read at the same level, but also making sure that people get a chance to practice a full round of election day before election day. You see, Chuck, in August of 2017, in the primary, we had a polling location where poll workers set up in the wrong part of the building at WC3 at Southfield Freeway and Outer Drive. They set up in the wrong part of the building, and therefore they didn't have any ballots when it was time for the polling place to open. When that happens because people didn't get a chance to get there and to practice on site. I'm a former basketball player. You have basketball practice multiple times for every game, so you could be fully prepared, fully confident, and understand that different situations are going to happen on game day. 12 years of failure to training, even by an educator, is unacceptable, and we can't do that going forward.
One of the concerns is that there has not been a good balance between older poll workers and younger poll workers. How do you strike that balance, and how do you get more younger poll workers involved in the system?
Yeah, and that's exactly what we do. We balance it. So we hire 500 high school students, college students, to work with us at every election. And they are the ones that operate the electronic poll book. They're called electronic poll book inspectors. We have the young people training them as well. So we incorporate both all generations in the process because everyone's need has to be met. In addition to that, we make sure that our boards, our precincts, reflect the population that they're serving. We have an initiative called Democracy in the D, where we've reached out to different segments of our city. Those segments of our cities that don't come out and participate in the process in the numbers that we would like them to participate in. We call those areas depressed areas. We recruit hard. We ensure that we have bilingual poll workers, as well as poll workers from those communities, like the Hmong community, so that they feel comfortable in participating in the process. Recruiting and hiring and working with high schools and college students is what we do. Our partnership, as you may know, is with Wayne County Community College. So many of our students come from there. We use Wayne County Community as a training facility. We use Wayne County Community as satellite voting, and we recruit heavily those young people to work with us on election day.
All right, let me give you a chance to answer the same question before we go to the next break.
Sure, I think the evidence is in what the voting experience has been. I mean, people have not been served by poll workers who have not been well trained by the city clerk. We need to be aggressive about making sure that poll workers reflect the diversity and richness of the city of Detroit. And that means going where people are, to inform them of the opportunity, to let them the chance to have an opportunity to engage and participate in working the polls, in being trained, and recruiting their friends and family. Part of that means that the city clerk needs to be present and visible in all the places where Detroiters are. You know, one concrete example of this, Chuck, is social media, Facebook. 70% of Detroiters rely on Facebook for information about their lives, about their family, and about what's important in the world every single day. But the City of Detroit Department of Elections Facebook page has not been updated since September 11th of 2013. That's before my children were even born. That means that the young people who are using Facebook every day to rely on it for information, they're not seeing their Detroit Department of Elections. They're not seeing the opportunities to come and step up. They're not seeing the opportunities to participate as poll workers in the process. We're leaving that on the table. So we need to be aggressive and not leave any opportunity, leave no stone unturned with how we're going to reach out to a diverse array of Detroiters to serve us and do the important work of being a poll worker. And last but not least, I don't think people want to work for a boss who is not welcoming and respectful of them, who is quick to blame them if things go wrong instead of taking responsibility. You see, I'm proud to have earned the support of the Detroit Free Press, both in the primary and in the general election, because they said that we had ideas that will go and meet Detroiters where they are, and we won't leave stones unturned. And I'm excited that, and I believe that young people want to work for a boss who's energetic, who wants to listen to them, who will respond to their concerns, and will hear their ideas and work to implement those ideas to make our elections better.
All right, I need to take another pause for the cause. We'll hurry right back with more questions. Stay with us. Do you guys support lowering the registered voter age from 18 to 16?
I'm in agreement with that. I also think we should have same-day registration. I also think we should have automatic registration. When those young people go in and get their driver's license, they should automatically be registered to vote like they do in some other countries.
I certainly support legislation like that would make it easier to register and participate in the process. But we have to remember that those are changes in state law that will be required, and the Detroit City Clerk has the opportunity, and it's necessary for the city clerk to do everything within the city clerk's authority to make voting more convenient and easier and do things to increase voter turnout. There are some concrete ways we can do that, like making sure people
But would you lobby for it?
Oh, I would absolutely lobby the state for that. But you know, one of the reasons that I've been able to earn the support of so many Detroiters and of the different organizations, including the labor union that the Detroit City Clerk's employees are represented by, AFSCME, I've been able to earn that because it's been about the ideas that the Detroit City Clerk can do to improve the voting process, to improve voter turnout, to make sure that people are doing things like voting at the polling place that's closest to where they live within their political composition. Is that the Detroit City Clerk can make sure that voting is as convenient as possible, making sure that people remember when election day is by sending them reminders via their cell phone, because the overwhelming majority, 99% of people in Detroit, have a cell phone that can receive a text message. Research shows that if people receive a text message reminding them of election day, they're more likely to go cast a ballot.
Do you all support convicted felons being able to vote in all 50 states?
Absolutely. And we have a program where we work with the jails, Wayne County Sheriff's Department, and we go in there and ensure that those individuals are able to vote their ballot, their absentee ballot. That's a program that we do. We do bedside voting, the same concept with individuals that are in the hospitals. But I have to point this out, Chuck. Everything that Garland says he wants to do is what we already do. He uses my same words, my same examples to show what we already do. We're in the high schools. We have satellite voting where an individual can vote their absentee ballot in person a full 30 days prior to election. We're the only municipality in the state that offers that. We are out there touching and feeling the people. We are accessible. And by the way, Garland, the city clerk's office is not represented by AFSCME. That's the Department of Elections. Garland doesn't know the job. He makes things up. He repeats what I say and try to use them for his advantage.
Mr. Gilchrist, I'll give you a chance to respond. Are you misrepresenting what Ms. Winfrey has been doing for 3 terms?
Absolutely not. And she talks about knowing the job. She's had 12 years to get this right, and is getting things wrong time and time again in election after election after election. And the Department of Elections is part of the Detroit City Clerk's office. So that union that represents them represents employees who ultimately put up to her. And so the thing I want to make sure we are clear about is the ideas that I'm talking about for City Clerk. When I worked as the Director of Innovation,
I have to be quick.
When I worked as the Director of Innovation for the City of Detroit, I helped procure the platform that the city uses to send residents text messages. The Detroit City Clerk does not use that, even though that platform was offered to her. This is exactly what I'm talking about in terms of leaving opportunities on the table to engage Detroiters. I will restore trust because I will show that I have the energy and the effort, and I want to be the city clerk. And I'm not concerned about doing other jobs, and I'm wholly focused on Detroit voters.
All right, we need to sneak another break in. We'll hurry right back with a final segment.
Thank you.
Stay with us. Clerk Winfrey, you ran for Secretary of State. You also ran for United States Congress. Did that distract you from your job and perhaps contributed to some of the problems you've had to deal with?
I say no. And I say no because, as you know, Chuck, I've administered 25 elections during my tenure, all of which I've received public reviews on how well they were administered. And then November 2016 happened. But we fixed November 2016. I've always focused on serving the citizens of the city of Detroit. For every election, I've received over 80% of their votes. So that's the endorsement that I seek.
You were involved with the Obama administration. If there's one thing from his administration that you would take into your administration if elected, what would it be?
The importance of community engagement. See, I became classically trained as a community organizer after being inspired from working on the campaign. And I would take the fact that it is critical that you go door to door and meet people where they are, wherever they are, in their homes, at their churches, their community association meetings, online, communicate how people communicate. The president did that. That's why he was reelected twice. That's why we love him so much and how he was so engaged. And that's what I'm going to bring, that kind of energy, effort, and love for Detroiters to the Detroit City Clerk office.
All right, I promised the two of you before we began doing this show that I would allow 30 seconds or so for each one of you, and that's all the time that we have, to be able to look into the camera, talk directly to the voters, and tell them why they should elect you on Election Day. Ms. Winfrey, I'll begin with you.
Detroiters, you know me. You know me, you know my work, you know my work ethics. You know that you are a priority for me. And so that is the reason why I ask that you continue to support me. I am the one to ensure that you don't have to put postage on a return ballot. I am the one that brings the ballot to you by way of satellite voting. I am the one that educates you on the ballot by sending you a sample ballot to your home 30 days prior to elections. I'm trusted, I'm proven, and I'm your city clerk. I ask for your continued support.
Thank you, Ms. Winfrey. Mr. Gilchrist.
Again, thank you, Detroiters, for supporting me and giving me the opportunity to run for city clerk in this general election. I will restore trust to the city clerk's office. Unfortunately, my opponent has not been one you have come to trust. She hasn't told the truth about how she spent money on campaign billboards. She hasn't told the truth in terms of sending voters incomplete sample ballots and incomplete candidate lists. We cannot afford to have someone who has failed us time and time again to be our next city clerk. I will restore integrity and trust. I will give you energy and passion and make sure that every Detroiter can open wide and walk through the doorway to democracy and decision making in Detroit. Please vote for Garland Gilchrist to be your next city clerk.
All right, obviously both of you have internal clocks. You clocked right about the same exact time, so very good. You get A's for that. Ms. Winfrey, thank you so much for coming in. Best of luck on the campaign trail. Mr. Gilchrist, thank you for coming in. Best of luck to you on Election Day. And may the best man or woman win. And I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the spotlight. We hope you have a great week, and don't forget to vote on Tuesday, November the 7th. Have a great day.